All right, looks like we are live. Hey everyone, happy Friday. This was an unexpected situation where we are going live from just about every platform. No matter where you're joining us, then you can easily share this information and you should be able to communicate back with myself and the Political Fixer team. You can either find us at Political Fixer or you can find me on my direct accounts, Shawna, Shawna, Vercher, V as in Victor, Cher. All right, for those of you just joining us, we have some breaking news. That is why we are doing this live regarding the Equal Rights Amendment. I want to say hi to Stephanie and so many others that have been supporting. Heidi, I know you're out there as well. So many people have been supporting this initiative for so long, as well as our Political Fixer community. Well, we've got positive news, but the work isn't done yet. Let me update you on what is happening. Again, we're going live to you with breaking updates on the Equal Rights Amendment for women. President Biden announced today that he believes that the 28th Amendment to the Constitution, should it go forward, the Equal Rights Amendment for women, has met, in his executive opinion, the needs to officially be certified and added to the Constitution. He directly called on a position we call our national archivist to officially put this in the Constitution. This is a huge step forward. We're going to go a little bit into why in just a bit, but let me express to you, while this is tremendously positive news, there is opposition and the work is not done yet. So the purpose of today's live is to bring you up to speed, explain to you what's happening, and then tell you some next steps that we can take, because we are inches away from being added to the Constitution. A movement that has lasted arguably since the beginning of the founding of our nation, when Abigail Adams lobbied her husband John Adams, one of the founding fathers, to include women at the very beginning, through the suffrage movement of gaining access for women to vote, where leaders like Alice Paul said that voting rights are not enough, we need to be in the Constitution. Now here we are, over 120 years after women achieved the right to vote, still not a part of the Constitution, but that can change. Okay, so the way that this works is that the constitutional amendment was proposed back in 1972. Congress, both the House and the Senate, said, yes, we should have the ability for women to be added to the Constitution. They approved the verbiage of the Equal Rights Amendment. It's really a simple amendment. It basically says that you cannot deny us rights or discriminate based on our gender or our sex. Easy peasy. There's a second piece to it that makes it even easier, which is the clause says that they have 2 years. Everybody has 2 years to get their act together, essentially, right? Very clean-cut amendment. However, once that passed, the federal requirement at the U.S. level with Congress, it then had to go to the states. And 75% of the states had to agree that, yes, this should be part of our Constitution. That's called ratifying. Well, Congress set a timeline for that, and we'll get to that in just a second. But as people started to agree to this, as state legislators started to vote and say, yes, absolutely, women of course should be added to the Constitution, then an opposition formed. And we're going to talk a lot more about that in the days and weeks to come, but the punchline is this: we did not meet the deadline that Congress set for all 38 states. We came close, but we did not get all 38 states in time. The work continued, and in 2020, nearly 50 years later, the 38th state, which happened to be Virginia, said yes, they ratified the Equal Rights Amendment. But the administration that was in office at the time in early 2020 said, nope, you took too long. That Congress said, no, you took too long. Okay, there is disagreement, legal disagreement about whether that clock was legal. Should it still count? Well, President Biden today weighed in and said in his executive opinion that forget the clock, we have met the criteria, move it forward, add it to the Constitution. Now, anytime there's a battle, there's usually a referee. So would you like to guess who the referee is likely to be in this scenario? That's right, the Supreme Court. Now, for those of you that have been following this and have been part of pressuring President Biden to move this thing forward, this was the sole reason that we were provided that he was hesitant to do so. Because President Biden felt that if he moved things forward and he put them in the Supreme Court's hands, that his concern is that they would say no, and it would actually set the progress back. But looking at things as they are, he said he'd rather essentially take the chance to move it forward than do nothing. Let me read you President Biden's quote. "I have supported the Equal Rights Amendment for more than 50 years, and I have long been clear that no one should be discriminated against based on their sex. We, as a nation, must affirm and protect women's full equality once and for all." So that was his quote. And so he basically then again called on the Archivist to add it to the Constitution. All right, so that's a quick summary of where we are. We're about to talk about how you can get involved because we're not powerless here. Just because it is going to the courts, which can be unpredictable at best, shall we say. We're trying to be kind and generous on this lovely Friday where we got so much good news. Even so, there is political pressure that we can create, and there are actions that we can take to strengthen our case that, yes, this should become officially the 28th Amendment of the Constitution. Now, before we dive into those specifics, whether you're joining us on Facebook or Instagram, YouTube or TikTok, Twitter or LinkedIn, let me express to you that you can comment on your stream and you should be able to share your information and your knowledge with us about comments, asking questions, how you want to get involved. It may or may not show up actually on the stream. Don't worry about that. We will make sure that we get your information and that we squirrel it away for later. Now, I want to say something really important. We know that there are some instabilities, to say the least, with our social media platforms right now. But there is a home base that we have created, equalrightsnow.us. And Eddie, if you could go ahead and throw that URL on the screen for everybody. I want to say a special shout out to our political fixer team that's helping us today, came in on their Friday to help out. So equalrightsnow.us. If you're watching us on most of the platforms, you'll see that .us as in .United States, as in all of us. That platform was built specifically for this purpose. We were thinking that President Biden would not move this forward and we need to take another approach. We were both stunned and just elated that we now have a new playbook that we're going to be rolling out. Thankfully, we had already put together some of this infrastructure, so you can go to equalrightsnow.us or you can go to politicalfixer.com, and if you would like and if you feel comfortable, either sign the petition and share with everyone why this is important to you. You'll be asked to provide your zip code, not your address, not too much of your personal information, but you'll be asked to provide your zip code so that we can alert the congressional leaders as well as your state legislators in your area how much support we have in this area. So that's option one. You can definitely go in there and sign the petition. The second thing is there are contact forms on both of these sites. If you, like us, are worried that we might lose some of our community connectivity as these platforms adjust to whatever lies ahead, then please, if you feel comfortable, share your information with us on one of these contact forms. We will not share it publicly. We will not sell it. We will not post it. We will not give it away. It will only be used to communicate with you for these purposes. So politicalfixer.com or equalrights.us. That's two options where no matter what happens on these platforms, you can reach us. We will be checking our messages on all of these platforms, but we like to have a backup plan just in case. All right. I already saw one of the questions fly by on the comments asking what Is it true that the archivist, who President Biden has asked to make this a part of the Constitution, is refusing to do their job? Let me offer some clarification. So if you're new to following this, basically, and how many of us have lived through a constitutional amendment, right? Not a lot of us, right? So what happens is it goes through its process. In this case, it was Congress and then the state ratification. The president in this case stepped up and said, yes, all the check boxes are here. Paperwork looks good. Let's move it forward. Someone has to actually add it to the Constitution. And it turns out, as we're learning, the person whose job it is to do that very critical task is called the National Archivist. Now, she made a statement recently that she did not believe that the court supported the idea of adding it to the Constitution because of the clock situation we talked about. Time had expired. Too bad, ladies. We missed our chance for rights. Okay, so with all of that in mind, President Biden today was like, nope, I think you're wrong. Do it. So again, it goes to a referee. I don't believe the archivist is refusing to do her job. I think she was offering a legal opinion based on her position at the time. Whether or not that's inappropriate doesn't really matter. These are the waters we're swimming in now. Okay, so I'm going to go to a couple of comments here. Let's go ahead and talk to, let's talk about our worst case scenario. We're going from TikTok. Marifiron says, what happens if the court strikes it down? Great question. So the plan we're about to talk about right now is to shore up political and state-by-state support for the amendment. We're going to go into specifics in just a moment. If that happens, then we will re-ratify. That's what will happen. And our worst case scenario is we build up an organized community, a broad stroke of support across the states that we need. We eliminate this issue of the clock. We start the clock over. And if we have to bide our time and get a new Congress in to do it in 2 years, we do it. If we have to bide our time in 4 years, our worst case scenario, we do it. But the alternative is to miss this chance after all of this time, after all of the sacrifice of the people who came before us, and we let it slide by. That, to me, is not a viable option. So it is possible that this fight could end within days, weeks, or months. It's possible that this fight, this last phase of this fight, could end in 4 or 5 years. But whatever it takes, we are so close. It's a small price to pay compared to how far we have come. So I want you to know that no, the courts don't finally determine it, and they can't close the door on us having rights forever. The worst they can do is rule that we get set back just a little bit and we have to take another run at it. All right, but all of the work we're going to do now is going to build towards that run. Okay, so let's talk specifically about that run. Okay, what do we need to do? There's 3 pieces to this, and I say this as a political fixer, someone who has worked in legislation, in crisis management, and in political media strategy for years, all right? In no particular order. Let's start with going in our own backyards. Right now, we have a situation where 38 states have ratified. There are a couple of pieces to this. First of all, certain people believe that we didn't get it fast enough. All right. So how can we change that? Well, we can go back to those states who were so excited to ratify when this originally was brought to them in 1972. We start with the states that were most eager and we get them to re-express their support, re-ratify, if you will. We really, really want women to be included as equal citizens in our Constitution. What will that do? Well, first of all, whether we take an official vote or we just show public support, it sends a strong message to the court that the timeline conversation, that argument is moot. It doesn't matter because if the vote were held again, we would still have what we need. So going back to these states has to be, in my opinion, one of the first places we start. How do we do that? We need to make sure that we reach out to each other, get our own. If you're a creator on any of these platforms, we need your voice at this table, and then we'll be tracking the progress and holding state legislators accountable. We want to ask them quite simply, do they support women being added to the Constitution with the Equal Rights Amendment? period. We don't care the legalese. We don't care how they think it's the best approach. And so to do that, we'll be tracking the progress, asking all of you to call, starting with your own state legislators and then moving outwards to other states that are critical. And we'll be tracking that progress on equalrightsnow.us. If you are a creator and you're willing to educate your audiences, share that information, even make some of these phone calls or emails, please share your information either in the comments, in DMs, or even better, take a moment and go to equalrightsnow.us or go to politicalfixer.com, because we don't know the trustworthiness of a lot of these platforms right now. If you feel comfortable, that would be a way we could communicate with all of you very quickly and effectively, and we would build up an email list, which we've already started with some of you, and we could communicate that way. We'll also, just so you know, be coming up with a way that you can connect with each other on other platforms. We've already started that work because, again, we don't know what's going to happen to some of these. All right, so reaching out to states who are a yes vote and getting them to reaffirm that yes vote. Reaching out to the 12 states who never expressed a yes vote. And now, when we're so close to the finish line, can we pick up any extra states? And I'm going to tell you why that's important in a minute. Now, we're going to publish all of this information, but let me do a quick rundown on these states that have not yet ratified. Some of them may be more likely than others. The winds have changed, and this is not something specifically about women's health. This is not about income equality. This does not mention any specific aspect of the law. It simply states that women should be added to the Constitution and not discriminated against. That's it. This should be a yes, and in fact, over 78% of the country supports this amendment. That's remarkable. You can't get 78% of the country to agree on anything. So don't write off a state and not try just because they may have ruled differently on other aspects of laws that have impacted women. All right, the states in alphabetical order that have not yet said yes, that we want to go to and ask them to affirm their support. We want them to become a yes vote to get our 38 states that we need. Alabama, Arizona, Arkansas, Florida, Georgia, Louisiana, Mississippi, Missouri, North Carolina, Oklahoma, South Carolina, and Utah. Now, I'm going to read those names on the, I'm going to read these names again, and then I'm also going to post them after we get done with the live broadcast on equalrightsnow.us. I just saw another creator, offer to jump in on this to co-host on TikTok. I do want to include you in the conversation. If you're on TikTok, I'm looking at you right now because we got two cameras going. If you're on TikTok, I can't include you in this live broadcast. So what we're going to do to make sure you're included is we're going to do this national update on all of the platforms. I'm going to log off, and then I'm going to log back onto TikTok, and then yes, I would love to include you creators in the conversation as co-hosts of the live to keep it going on TikTok. So I'm going to say that again. We're going to finish this broadcast, which right now is being simulcast around the world on a number of different platforms, including YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and let's see, LinkedIn. All right, so we're going to start there. And then after we finish this broadcast, I will log back onto TikTok. And yes, creators, please join the broadcast, that second broadcast directly after this. We're going to aim for around 4:30 or 5 o'clock. All right. Okay. And that's Eastern time. All right. So going back to the states we can target, who we can pick up points from. Again, these are bonus points. So even if we get one or two, this is a big deal and it could matter. And I'll explain why in a second. Alabama, Arizona, Arkansas, Florida, Georgia, Louisiana, Mississippi, Missouri, North Carolina, Oklahoma, South Carolina, Utah. If it's me, low-hanging fruit there is North Carolina. So again, 1 or 2 points could make all of the difference. Why do I say that? Because we have another fly in the ointment. One of the other arguments being brought in front of the Supreme Court as a reason that we should not receive this equal rights treatment in our Constitution is that since we got our 38 states, 5 of them said, just kidding, we actually don't think that women should have their rights. Okay, some context here. This happened in the late 70s. This was a pendulum swing from that second wave of feminism. For any of you that are familiar with it, it doesn't mean that's how they believe now. Now, there's legal discussion about this. Are there takebacks, right? A lot of scholars say no takebacks. You ratified it. It's done. Well, let's just change the argument, shall we? So we need to go back to those 5 states that in the 70s threatened to remove their vote as a yes for equal rights for women and pressure them to then take back their takeback, right? Where do they stand today? Let me give you those 5 states. Nebraska, Tennessee, Idaho, Kentucky, South Dakota. All right. So reading it again, Nebraska, Tennessee, Idaho, Kentucky, and South Dakota. We will put all of this on equalrightsnow.us. These are the 5 states that we want to get to them and say, hey, listen, you're part of the 38 we need. Are you with us or are you not? It should be very straightforward, right? So these are part of the legislators we're going to be reaching out to. If you're just joining us on the live, there's been breaking news that President Biden has moved forward the long-awaited Equal Rights Amendment for women. We now believe this is going to become a court fight in the Supreme Court. And what we are trying to do is pave the way to have the best success possible for the Supreme Court, with our backup plan being that if the Supreme Court does in fact rule against us, that we will then have what we need to move back for our second and final push to get this across the finish line. That's the conversation for today, and the 2 points of bringing you all together, and I so appreciate you no matter where you're coming in from, which is that, first of all, community building is going to be so important here. The uncertainty of the platforms has concerned many of us for many reasons. So the Chrisertunity, so to speak, is that this equal rights push, by going to equalrightsnow.us and plugging into this community, whether you are someone who's politically active or you've never gotten involved in advocacy, this is a great unifying cause to be a part of. Whether you are a woman or you're an ally, whether you're in the country or not, we need global support as well in different ways. We now have a home base where we can stay connected no matter what, and we'll be expanding the features to connect you to each other. That community is going to be so important, not just for this issue, but for many of the causes and issues that we support moving forward. The second piece of this is to really understand what's true and what's false. And the third piece of this is to not only provide action, but amplification. We need this to be a talking point. This was a huge moment and it barely made a blip on the 24-hour news cycles. We are going to have to create the political will to get this done. If this goes out quietly, it will disappear. And that's where all of you come in. No matter how many followers you have, no matter where you are, no matter what platform you use, we need your voice to help amplify this. All right, we talked about pressuring things from the state side. Let's talk about removing some of the political opposition. It is critical that we go to our congressional representatives on the U.S. House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate, and we ask them one very simple question and hold them accountable for their answer. Number one, only question I care about is, do you support women being added to the Constitution? Yes or no? That is it. If they say no, if they hem and haw, we call them out publicly, also on equalrightsnow.us, as well as our social platforms. I understand that things are contentious right now, but women being included as equal citizens in our country should not be contentious. I am not ceding that ground no matter how anyone voted on any past legislation. One of the tricks of politics is to make things seem complicated and muddy and scary and confusing and hopeless. We are not falling for any of that. And no matter who someone is, no matter how safe they think their job is in the next election, they all have one thing in common. None of them can afford to run an election and not get any women voting for them. And like it or not, This issue has not been framed as cleanly in the past. It has gotten muddied. And so let's make it super clear and super clean and just go to them for that yes or no. And we'll be tracking your progress. We need you to please volunteer and share. If you speak to someone, if you hear someone, if you see a story where someone made a public statement who's in office since this news has broken, we need to be tracking that information. Right now, we have a contact form and we have messaging on socials, but in the next 48 hours, we are building that out as much as possible to have a way that we can all share information more effectively. So the first step is state legislators. The second step is Congress. We're going to talk about the third step in just a moment. We've got some more questions. Okay, so A. Watful asked, shouldn't Biden fire the archivist? I like the way you think, but the time is not there for this issue. Let me tell you why, what we're dealing with the clock here. President Biden is no longer the president as of Monday afternoon. And just to make sure that her back was covered, then the archivist not only came forward and said, hey, this is what I think. She brought her deputy archivist along with her, and he was like, yep, she's right. Can't do anything. Our hands are tied. So if you fired the archivist, the position in the interim would go to the deputy archivist, who is also right now a no vote. Will this pressure them to change their minds? We don't know. But right now, it's Friday afternoon. Bringing someone in, firing them, hiring 2 new positions to fill it, and then having them just say yes. Now that would raise some red flags, and that would probably not pass the scrutiny of processes and procedures for this court. It's a great question, and if it's me, everything's on the board, but just so you know, Deputy Archivist also said, no, I side with the archivist, which is his role and responsibility, but not helpful for our cause. Okay, so let's see. We've got a question from TikTok, which is Valerie. Hi, Valerie, said, can Trump stop the ERA from being officially added? The short answer is that the prior administration was one of the reasons we believe this didn't go forward to begin with. However, there's something that we have learned through all of this experience, both the positives and the negatives, which is that the winds can change and public opinion can change, which therefore changes the leadership's opinion and actions on a dime. Everything can change on a dime. First, he was against TikTok. Now he says he's going to save TikTok. We don't know what his actions are going to be. So I wouldn't assume one way or another. That's where our political pressure comes in. And we'll talk more about that in just a bit. But the other thing to keep in mind is, short answer, if this passes the legal challenges that it needs to, with this iteration, with this 38 states, the 38 points we already have in our hand, then no, he could do nothing to stop it. If the Supreme Court says yes, then it's a yes. He could not stop it. It would be in the Constitution. It would be a done deal. Now, what happens if the Supreme Court sides against us? Well, then that's when we might have to have it go back through Congress again. Could he stop it then? That is a legal discussion and a debate. It's a bridge we'll cross when we get to it. But most people believe no, that actually if you have the Congress that says, yes, you have permission to go get the ratified states, and then you have the ratified states, that's all you need, right? The only reason that President Biden needed to step in, according to many people who study this issue, who are actually attorneys, of which I am not, believe that had the clock not expired, President Biden wouldn't need to weigh in on this. The reason it became an issue is because too much time elapsed. We had an original deadline from Congress of 7 years. We did not meet that deadline, and that's what caused the chaos. So another way to look at this is, this might be hard. It might take time, but as long as we start now, then it could be that a new Congress that changes hands in either 2 or 4 years, that could put us over the edge. And because so many congressional leaders, their elections are much closer, right? They're both in time and then also in how the point spread was of red versus blue, right? People that voted for them and people that voted against them. So no matter what you might think a congressperson's opinion might be, when they start looking at the polling on this issue and how many of their voters feel strongly about this issue, not just women, but our allies, then I believe this could cause enough pressure even from some of the more congressional conservative leaders of the House to move this forward. Do I think we're going to get 100% of people? No, but we don't need it. We don't need it. So there's a lot of different ways to approach it, but notice that all of it starts with organizing and political pressure. All right. Let's see. We've got so many different things. Let's take this question from TikTok. Anna Kirby Howe. Hopefully I pronounced your name correctly. Sometimes it's hard to read on this platform. Does Congress or the Senate impact the archivist, and is that plan B? That's a great question. No, technically the federal courts are supposed to be and the Department of Justice and the rulings of those courts are supposed to be the only things that could impact the archivist. That is your technical opinion from what I understand it. But we're no longer in the before times. And so we don't know if that archivist is going to remain in that position. We no longer know how that's going to work with political influence. There's technical influence, and then there's that implied political influence. So the short answer is we don't know. But right now, if the archivist says no and President Biden says yes, then if that's essentially considered a tie and it goes to the Supreme Court. So what we're trying to do is create political loudness and public pressure to show that there's a broad spread support for this no matter where people live in the country, and that it is fairly bipartisan. And then on the other side, we're also trying to weaken the arguments against putting this in the Constitution, which is you didn't get it fast enough. Okay, we'll go get them again. And somebody wanted to do takebacks. Okay, we'll go replace those 5 points. We'll either take back some of those takebacks or we'll go get 5 new ones, but you got to move this forward. That is the case we're going to be making for the Supreme Court. Great question by Anna. Let's see here. We've got different people here. A. Wattful says that there's already rumors that the archivist was going to be fired anyway. We'll wait and see. Who knew that we would live in such times that we would care so deeply about who our archivist is? Okay. So let's keep going on the political and public pressure and how that works. All right. Eddie, we can go ahead and remove that question from the stream. Let's go ahead and put the website back up. All right. So the reason that it's critical to insert this and dominate the national conversation is because that will change hearts and minds. I have been a part of passing both federal legislation and legislation in 34 different states, in red states and purple states and in blue states. And there are things that this process has in common, which is, with very rare exception, in their own home districts and in the media outlets that they each support and love, these leaders want to be liked. And so if we create a positive groundswell showing how many people from different walks of life, whether you are a woman who stays at home or you leave your home to work, whether you have children or you chose not to have children, whether you chose to marry or chose not to marry, whether you live in a blue state or a red state, no matter what your religious faith is that you choose to practice or not practice, we need to show a unifying, diverse perspective of all of the women we possibly can and our critical, so supportive male allies, and show not just congressional leaders, show their donors, show their special interest groups, show corporations, show corporate media, show social media trends that this is an important issue for us. One thing you can do right now, no matter where you are or what platform you use, is you can start talking about this issue in whatever space you feel comfortable. And we'll be helping to provide you talking points as we move forward. But after these lives, we'll make sure that this file is available for you. Our home base for a lot of these files, aside from equalrightsnow.us, is YouTube. You can find it at Political Fixer. Go to YouTube. You'll be able to find stuff. In fact, we just did a broadcast about this last night, not realizing that we'd have so many developments again today. All right. So when you look at these talking points, steal whatever language you would like, and then we're going to provide more written tools for you to use. In fact, we're going to be providing materials so that you can become a trainer on this issue on campuses, in senior communities, in your business networking groups, with your friendship circles, in advocacy organizations and your local parties. We'll provide you with what you need to get this conversation going and keep it going. And then if you post on this, we would ask, if you can, to please use the hashtag Equal Rights Now. Eddie, could you throw up a hashtag of Equal Rights Now when you get a moment? So the website is equalrightsnow.us. We will be developing additional social platforms for this, but this is happening very quickly. So right now, the Political Fixer and Shawna Vercher platforms are what we're using for today, and we'll continue to grow from there. But if you're doing a hashtag, please try to use the hashtag Equal Rights Now. Equal Rights Now. That way, we can amplify what you're doing. We'll do a search for those hashtags of Equal Rights Now, and then we will amplify what you have posted on whatever platform it is. Now, to support this effort, we have created an organization. It is a federal political action committee. Again, not realizing that there would be such positive momentum to build on, but definitely understanding the critical nature after the last election of protecting and securing women's rights so that our destiny is not decided based on elections. What a concept. So we, in cooperation with so many of you on our TikTok audience specifically, I'm looking at this camera right now because you on the Political Fixer TikTok community, you helped get that organization going. We received initial funding and we went directly to the FEC, the Federal Elections Commission, and we launched Equal Rights Now. It is a national organization. Hey, Divine AF girl. It is a national organization, and we are building a broad spread, diverse advisory board across the country. And you can take on a role if something, if you want to take on something that is national, we would love to have you. If you would prefer to really focus on your state, we definitely need you for that as well. Let us know if you would like to take on a role with Equal Rights Now. There are ways to compensate you for that work as well. It's important work. I know most of you would do it for free, but you know what? There's only so many hours in each of our days, and we can do this together and you not have to sacrifice financially to do this critical work. We know how these organizations are run, and for us, we would rather make sure that you, as activists, as organizers, as creators, are compensated rather than punt this over to high-priced consultants and so-called insiders. This is a true grassroots movement. Yes, it is woman-led and woman-run. We are excited. I don't know if Heidi Torres is on right now, but she has agreed to serve on our national board. Erin Jones, known as Afro Educator, she has agreed to serve on our national board. Lawyer Graham, also known as Coretta Graham, the new incoming statewide president of the Texas Democratic Women, she has agreed to serve on our advisory board. Derek Day, one of the top brand influencers for so many socially conscious corporations and organizations, including the Special Olympics and the Grand Ole Opry, he has agreed to serve on our board. We have so many amazing voices and we need yours. This is just getting started, but man, what a great way to start the year, right? With so much positive progress. Okay, if you are just joining us, a few really important notes. And for those that you have those of you who have been with us for this live, let's take just a beat and let's go through our homework together in these updates. All right, I'm Shawna Presley Vercher, the Political Fixer. After the election, I set my sights on one extremely important goal, thanks in part to our TikTok family as well as my own daughter who just turned 20. This is sacred to me in addition to the work that I have done for so many years in trying as a social justice advocate to try to find and scratch out some level of equality and just human dignity for marginalized groups across the board. We decided to take on the singular cause of adding women to the Constitution. We didn't know what shape that would take, but that was our project that we circled for 2025 and beyond. Since that time, we've been speaking to many of you behind the scenes and some of you on our special exclusive TikTok live broadcasts, and you all have stepped up in droves and just humbled us with the hundreds, if not thousands of you who have volunteered and said you want to be a part of this. It's not too late. We have so much work to get done. This is not over. If you are someone who is willing to lend your voice, your talents, and your time to whatever you can do, you can either message us but understand the volatility of some of these platforms, or please reach out to us at equalrightsnow.us, or you come straight to our home base, which is politicalfixer.com. Now, politicalfixer.com is our organization. Equal Rights Now is its own organization now. It is official. Any contributions do not go to me. They do not go to the Political Fixer team. They go directly to Equal Rights Now. It gets governed by the FEC. Every dime is publicly accounted for and tracked, and you'll see every bit of that. And 100% of it is going to go to advancing this cause, including bringing the talented artists, creators, strategists, those of you who are advocates, all of you to the table and doing whatever we need to get this across the finish line. So please let us hear from you by either filling out that contact form. That would be the 100% best way, messaging us on any of these platforms, or you can also fill out the petition. Now, the petition does not give us your contact information, so actually we would love it if you would sign the petition and do the contact form, but whatever you feel comfortable doing. Okay. So Jessica is teeing us up here. Jessica Agee asked, and forgive me, Jessica, if I just pronounced your last name incorrectly, can we get some very clear-cut, quotable action steps? Which congressperson to talk to, what to say, hashtag, how to track? Yes. Guess what? My weekend just got decided for me, right? So our original plan was we did not think that Biden would move forward on things because he was running out of time. So we were going to let the news cycle of next week be the news cycle of next week. And we were going to be quietly working all that week to roll everything out starting on the 27th. Well, then this lovely surprise hit our inboxes on a lovely Friday morning. And so Jessica, absolutely. If you have suggestions for any of that, we would love to hear from you and from others. But the short answer is absolutely. And we will cross-publish those talking points and action steps. They'll be, of course, primarily on equalrightsnow.us, but we'll also post, I just posted a video today that was a quick summary on TikTok. We'll cross-post that on platforms. When we have instructional things like how to do something, messaging tips, advice on how to use some of the tools, we'll make sure to put that on the different platforms, including YouTube. So yes, Jessica, absolutely. We need concrete action steps. Bear with us for just a few hours as we get them. But the good news is you know where to go to get them. The other thing you should understand is that we're going to be employing a lot of Google Docs. That's our tool of choice. It's free. We can share things widely and publicly. And so we're going to be sharing a lot of the Google Docs. We'll also be sharing social graphics for you to be able to create. Now, if you're an artist, if you're a graphic designer, if you are someone that has some ideas for slogans or things to get people's attention, if you're a writer, please also let us know that, because not only can we leverage your talents to move this forward, but also, again, there are ways to get compensated for your time and acknowledged so that your business and your talent grows with this movement. So for example, if you're an artist and you want to leverage some of your pieces and put them on merch that benefits Equal Rights Now, you would get compensated for that art. We want to make sure that we do not repeat mistakes of prior movements. With all respect and again, humility to the people that got us to this point, and all of the organizations that have been working on this and other initiatives, we still know that there is room for growth and opportunity to make people feel more included and appreciated. And while all of us are here for the right reasons, because we care and we want to make things better for ourselves and for each other, when you appreciate people and when you acknowledge them, much less if you compensate them and they feel seen and valued, that prevents burnout. It makes it to where they can continue to put more focus and energy on that work. And it's just the right thing to do. So we're going to make sure that we do that. That is a key point to us. But the other thing is that we want to make sure sure that this movement is about all of us and all of our voices. Yes, we jumped into the deep end, and so you're seeing my face on now. Right after this broadcast, we're going to be bringing on other creators and amplifying them, and our advisory board and the voices at the table, including yours, are going to be diverse. We need to make sure that this represents a cross-section of all of us. All right, a lot of things happening all at once. Let's give some positive updates. We've got so many people coming in from so many different platforms from around the country at least. Definitely, if you feel like it, share with us in the comments where you're watching from, what city you're in. We would love to see where you're coming in from and what is bringing you to the table. If you want to share why this movement of equal rights for women in the Constitution is important to you, we'd love to see that. I see people from DC. Hi, Crystal. I see that. I see Lawyer for Social Justice. I would like to get involved. Yes, sold. Absolutely. If you want to get involved, it's equalrightsnow.us. My apologies to those on TikTok who can't see the screen that we're streaming on other platforms. I see Gulfport in my backyard. I see Boston, I see Maine, I see Denver, I see Ohio, I see Pittsburgh. Sarah, can you hop onto TikTok, please, and share in the comments the website, equalrightsnow.us. So it's equalrightsnow.us, or you can find everything linked and cross-posted on politicalfixer.com, because I know that's how so many of you know me. Thank you so much, Sarah. That's our chief of staff. She's amazing. She and the Political Fixer team on today to make sure all of this stuff is reacting. I want to say hi to Eddie and to Mia and to Jason and so many others that are making this possible. Okay, I see Omaha. Wow, just this is amazing. All right, let's do this. So we have a way to connect, which is that we are going to connect on different social platforms. One of the things we're working on, because of the volatility of certain social platforms right now, is a way that if any platform goes dark, you all can consent and decide how much you would like to share with each other. That is extremely important. That is a factor of what we're putting together right now. The second thing is we want to make sure that we can track our progress in an organized way. So we need to get you talking points, contact information, and then we want to hear from you what the results of that outreach are. We're going to be doing a lot of that on the website and also on Google Docs. Now, if you're not a tech-savvy person, don't worry. We're going to make it so easy. But here's something cool about the websites we just sent you to. Both equalrightsnow.us and politicalfixer.com have a phone number and an actual email address. And guess what? It goes to real people, right? So we are doing this old school. We're actually going to talk to you as we get this stuff together. And I know some of you have already reached out, and I'll be visiting you and helping you in your community. So this isn't something that just exists on our screens and in our phones. This is a movement that we need to take to the outside world. And so on that note, I know it can feel like this is the only world, and we do love our online communities. You guys have been so great, but we need to take it outside. Right? We need to make sure that everyone knows about this. People are busy, they work hard, they don't often have the ability or the time to digest all of the news that is happening. So we need to bring it to them. So what are some different ways we can do that? The easiest way is, while we love our communities online, it's limited. We need to make sure we access your communities. Each of you have an influence online and in person. So we need to get you whatever we can in your hand. If you can agree to create messaging, share messaging that we have. We'll get you graphics and talking points if you want to do your own videos, and training if you want to host events. All of that stuff, it's free. We'll get you as much as you can. And as we see you using the hashtag Equal Rights Now, that's hashtag Equal Rights Now, then we're going to do what we can to amplify you and grow you as well. And if you're interested, we can amplify you even further as part of this national organization. We want you to be a part of this amazing community that we have have gotten to experience over the last several months as part of the Political Fixer family. So there's the online piece. There's the in-person piece. If you want for me or another leadership member to either come into your community or to join you via Zoom or to hop in and have a quick glass of wine with you and a bunch of friends who are trying to make a difference, we're there. If we can possibly be there, we are there. This is the work that we do every day, all day. This is my mission. This is what we decided and declared for this year, and thank goodness we did, because the time is now. President Biden has done something that has pleasantly shocked us all, and he has moved forward the Equal Rights Amendment. We know the fight isn't over, but this is a huge step forward, and we are inches away from a fight that has existed since the beginning of the founding of this nation. And it's just such a moment. And so to be able to look ahead, I want you to think for just a second. We're going to talk more about press and media in just a second, but think about how you were feeling over the last several days, some of you, right? A lot of uncertainty, right? Our platforms, our economy, situation overseas, what's happening politically, a lot of uncertainty. And we're sitting here just living our lives and saying, oh gosh, what's going to happen next, right? And a lot of us felt this. And then we get this amazing opportunity to head into next week, of all weeks, as momentous as next week is for so many reasons, with positivity and feeling like we can make a positive difference after everything that's been thrown at us. That's remarkable, right? So we want to still capture the joy of what some of us experienced so recently and we've just felt was a little bit out of reach lately, right? And that idea that we as Americans and as those who support Americans, particularly American women, that we still have a voice that can matter. Wow, what a gift, right? So let's move that forward with positive energy, and let's bring that unapologetic energy. We're not asking. There's a reason we named it Equal Rights Now. We are not asking, we are declaring. Let's bring that energy to the media that is not social media. Your local newspapers, letters to the editor, you can email them, you can call them, you can write them, reaching out politely but persistently to different reporters that you think should cover this. People who have their own blogs or magazines or podcasts. Myself, a member of our leadership team, many of you would gladly talk to them about this issue. And when they report on this issue, when you see an article about this issue that moves it forward and amplifies it, share it, spread it, reward the behavior we want to see. Because if we keep pushing and amplifying these articles and commenting on them and thanking them for covering it and forwarding it to our friends and our email lists, that will continue to keep up the media coverage. And we're going to need that media coverage so that we can apply the political pressure to the elected officials we were talking about before. Right? So does it all sort of make sense? So that media pressure becomes public pressure, which becomes political pressure. And now we're cooking. Now we can change things. Now we can open some doors that seemed like they were locked pretty firmly before. All right. If you can, try to share this information. Let's see. I've got Dale, I think it's Pownley. I'm so sorry. It's Dale Ponel. Forgive me. I can't read the last name because it's scrolling so fast. Interesting on doing online posting, benefiting. Man, this is so great, Dale. Yes, absolutely. We want you to do online posting. Sarah, I see already sees you. If you are in the chat right now, Pownal. Thank you, Dale. I'm looking at things through my dress, through this brick wall, through so many things, and also through tired eyes with not nearly enough caffeine. Okay, so definitely share this information with your friends. If you're on the chat right now and you want to share what you'd like to do, that's great. And even maybe, as I gently suggest, possibly better way to do things, even though it's a little bit of a work. We'd want to hear from you no matter what, but also please go to equalrightsnow.us as well as politicalfixer.com. On our social on TikTok, we are already at over nearing 40,000 likes. We got 39,000 and change. We're nearing 40,000 likes on this on a Friday afternoon, an impromptu family meeting as it were. And this live will be made made available to you on YouTube at Political Fixer. So we're going to move it to YouTube. We don't know what will happen. And so with TikTok, which has been so supportive of all of the work that we have done as a Political Fixer family to this date, we don't know what's going to happen. So please make it a point to connect with us on another platform or to connect with us on one of these websites so that we don't lose that community as things move forward. And again, we'll find ways for you to stay connected to your own communities as well. Okay, I want to bring a comment out from Karen Sherman. We could really reach out to retired women and our senior women. Yes, Karen, 1,000%. Yes. And let me explain why. First of all, seniors get it done. I have worked in a lot of campaigns, and you want to know the quiet but powerful engine of political campaigning and social justice advocacy, it is seniors, hands down. But the other thing is that many of these seniors were part of the work before. They were part of that wave of feminism, of the days of Gloria Steinem and Betty Friedan and Shirley Chisholm. They were the ones that got us to this point. And they unfortunately have watched as we have remained in this standstill and not been able to finish the work that they put on their shoulders. So to give them an opportunity to tag back into the game and see it through, absolutely. So let's reach out into our senior communities and invite them to be a part of this, whatever that looks like. Because the other thing is, if you want to know who writes a beautiful letter to the editor or a pointed call with a local official, it's a senior. Trust me, I know of which I speak. So great point. Danny says, yes, we've been watching things revert back. We must stop it. Not going back was not a slogan, right, Danny? Like, it was not a slogan to many of us. We felt that. Aunt Rascal said, we've been relegated to insulting boomer memes. Such a good point, but let's sit on that for just a moment as we talk, because Aunt Rascal makes a good point, but there's a broader point to add to it, which is that this was the trick originally that caused the Equal Rights Amendment partially not to go through in the time allotted, which is that we pitted women against each other by age, we mentioned before, by staying at home, not staying at home, having kids, not having kids, and we see billion-dollar enterprises dedicated to making us feel like we're torn apart. Even this issue, we talk about it as a women's issue because it is, but we need to ensure that our male allies feel welcome at this table because they will support this. There are so many men who will support this, and we need everybody. We've also been pitted against each other based on our income levels, based on what ethnicity we are, our faith. Again, the list goes on and on and on. Let's make a promise that as we go into this new year with this new gift and this new energy, that we won't fall for old tricks. And so I love that point that we should not just assume that the younger generation doesn't care or that the boomers want things the way to stay the same and don't care about the people behind them. Like, none of that is true. Those are all tricks. Okay, if Pennsylvania already ratified, do I still need to sign the petition or reach out to your state rep? So Elhart asks a great question. The short answer is no, you don't need to. However, we are going to ask them to re-ratify and to re-vocalize their support. So using Pennsylvania as the example, we would start calling state legislators and ask them to go on the record, because the state legislators that are elected right now are not the same people who voted to ratify years and years ago. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to say, hey, even if the vote was held again today, this is how many representatives say they would vote yes again. So it still serves a purpose. So even if your state has already said yes, even if you live in the most pro-women bastion of the country, and as someone in Florida, boy, do I envy and admire you. But no matter where you live, yes, your voice is still important. And also it adds to our numbers because we want to make sure we show so many dots on the new map that we'll be rolling out. Amers asked a really great question. Thank you for the broader point. I wonder how much younger generations know about the history of the ERA. I'm going to put one of my team members a little bit on the spot here on this response because I think it's such a good point. When I mentioned this to Eddie, our very talented producer and director of photography of our television series and our podcast, super smart, super talented guy, cares a lot about the issues that we try to capture on film and bring to you. I mentioned this project to him, and he was a little stunned to learn that women were not in the Constitution. Many younger generations grow up thinking that the reason it says all men are created equal is just a shorthand, and that it means all humans. But it doesn't. It was intentional. And in fact, if there was ever a doubt about that, then one of the justices, Alito, made it very clear that in some of his rulings and his writings that no, women are not afforded the same protections as men. So it's a great question. We can't expect people to know the history no matter what their age is. And also, we live in the age of misinformation and sensationalism. So let's talk about it from the other side. We talked about the history. Let's talk about today. You know how many people are going to look at that headline today, not read the story, and be like, yay, done. We've got equal rights. That's also a challenge. So good conversation, patient and generous education, answering the same questions. Years and years ago, I had the pleasure of being a part of the 07-08 campaign for president for a young man you may have heard of named Barack Obama. And I remember that we were at this event with a bunch of people and donors and important people that were considering if they were going to support this young, scrappy senator to be the nominee, the Democratic nominee for president. And we had been with him all day. We had done stop after stop after stop. And I watched him listen thoughtfully to a question he had easily gotten 12 times that day. Easily, and smile patiently and nod like it was the first time he had ever heard that question asked, and then answered it thoughtfully to the gentleman who asked it and made him feel like it was the most important question he could ask. And he earned his vote that day. And that's how we do it. One conversation at a time, listening patiently, making sure that people feel heard, making sure that they don't feel worse about themselves for having asked the question, but better about themselves for getting engaged, right? That's going to be the patience that we all try to take on, not just like, you're either with us or you're against us. That does not work. We need everyone, which means we need to go to where they are. So I hope we take that energy as well. So Tara Sue Stardust says she signed the petition. Thank you, Tara Sue. Where do we get our names on a list for future planning? If you can fill out the contact form, that would be the most effective way. We're going to streamline that method. Again, all of this happened very quickly, so forgive our dust a little bit as you caught us kind of mid-renovation. But if you do that, we'll send you an email newsletter as well as you'll get first access to all the Equal Rights Now socials. That is the cleanest way to stay in contact. Thank you to Mar and Mick A. You signed as well. So many people that have done things. So Kelly Frazier is coming into us from YouTube saying it would be great if we could be on Alex Cooper, Call Her Daddy, love that podcast, and Kylie Kelsey's podcast. Kelly, you're reading my mind. This is exactly what we need to talk about next. So if you're joining us, we're talking about the fact that President Biden moved forward the Equal Rights Amendment progress. We are so close, but we have work to be done. And part of that work to get it across the finish line is to show public support for this amendment. How do you get support? You have to educate people about what's going on and then ask them to voice that support once they feel like they're a part of it, right? And so to Kelly's point, we would love it if you all would start reaching out to people and sending them to equalrightsnow.us. And just like we talked about the legislative side and reaching out to your social circles and your friends, also ask them if they will have us on as guests. We have a number of people across the country, a number of great creators, and hopefully some of you you. We'll add your name to that list. When you reach out to us, we're going to be asking you, would you be willing to go on some of these programs with us? There's only 24 hours in our day as well, and this is moving fast. But whether it's something amazingly large like Call Her Daddy or Kylie Kelsey, what we find also is some of the smallest podcasts and blogs and magazines, they have the most loyal viewership and readership. So whether it's large or small, local or national or worldwide, yes, absolutely, Kelly Frazier, great point. Let's get this out into the media. Now, going back to a point that one of you made before, I think it was Jessica, saying, okay, but we need this to be tangible and actionable. Love this energy, by the way, Jessica. Keep us organized. Then we're also going to be coming up with press releases you can share, as well as talking points for that as well. Now, some of you are asking to be a guest on our TikTok Live. Right now, we are simultaneously broadcasting to you from our new studio, which happens to be set up. Let's take a moment, because we worked really hard over this over the break, and we were going to unveil this to you guys later, and then this happened. But ta-da, I introduced to you our new studio for the podcast, for Equal Rights Now updates, for the new Political Fixer updates. What do we have here? We have some great artwork by Karen Hallian that has all of these amazing icons in pop culture. My personal fave is the Buffy icon right there. We have this amazing artwork from the Mary Poppins inspiration, Sister Suffragette. We have some artwork that our Archivist staff, Sarah, provided, posters from the musical that she was lucky enough to get to go to, Suffs, which I hear is going to be touring again, inspired by Wicked and the sisterhood of that movie. So we wanted to put some current and common stuff that hopefully we're all feeling the amazing vibes from our Wicked viewings over the holidays. We've got the Equal Rights Now new logo that's up. We're going to be enhancing that. And then on this side, we have two of my favorite artists, Selena. I am from Texas, and Selena was a big part of growing up with representing that Tejano culture. And then Samara Joy. And if you have not had the privilege of listening to this young angel sing the blues and jazz, boy, did I just give you a gift for your weekend, Samara Joy. All right. And then we have our little pop that's going to be joining us. And we're going to have different guests for different broadcasts. But today we have Ruth joining us for our broadcast, and that's going to change. So I know some of you love to see the pops in our other Political Fixer broadcasts. Don't worry. Willie and Dolly did not go anywhere. But we're going to bring new guests into the programming. So why am I sharing all this with you? Because this is fortuitous timing, and we are set up to be Command Central. So whether or not we are appearing on some of your podcasts and TikTok lives, or whether or not we're giving you information, or we're broadcasting to represent your voices, or including you in the conversation, we've now at a great place. We're all decked out to do it. Now, if you want to join me for a conversation after this global broadcast on all of our platforms, there's different ways you can do it. If you're on TikTok currently, we are going to be signing off of our live shortly, and then we are going to come back on. And I'm going to be starting with Heidi, one of our former Univision correspondent. She is a global force, Heidi Torres. She has agreed to be one of our national advisory board members for Equal Rights Now. So we are going to be broadcasting with Heidi first. And if any of you would like to join our broadcast afterwards, if you're creators on TikTok, I don't know what's going to happen with TikTok, but let's make these hours count, shall we? So yes, we want to bring you in. We can't do it with the tech setup now. So we're going to sign off, and we're going to sign back on at 5 p.m. Eastern. That's 5 p.m. Eastern, and we want you to join us. Okay, so we'll hear your voices at the table, and it doesn't matter how many followers or fans or audience members you have. If you can, hop into the conversation. This is a big day. We want to hear from as many of you as possible. For those of you on our other platforms, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, I can't even think of all of the ones that we have, but all of the platforms that we have right now, if you're on here, first of all, hi to so many of my friends and colleagues who had no idea that we were working on this very important issue before today, because we were planning on announcing it to you on the 27th. This is the first time we're broadcasting on your platforms, and I hope that this sparks a reason for you to reconnect and to get involved. And I want to hear what you're working on as well. well. We've been really fortunate in our TikTok community and very focused on that, but now it's time to bring it out to the rest of you and bring you into this really amazing conversation that we started back in July, centered around the election. Leah's asking, are we on Substack? The short answer is we have a Substack. We are going to be posting both on Substack and on BlueSky. We will add other platforms as you suggest them to us. Catch a Vibe says, how do I sign the petition? Great question. You can either go to politicalfixer.com and you scroll down, there's a button that says sign the petition, or you can go directly to equalrightsnow.us and you can sign the petition. You do not have to donate, and intentionally, you do not have to give us your contact information to sign the petition. We did that on purpose. I know it makes it to where now you have to then go to the contact form to be on the mailing list, but we wanted to make sure that you have your voice heard even if you are a private person. In fact, there's a checkbox on the petition where you have to give us permission to even post your quote if that's something that you choose to do, because we know that people are in different living situations, in different work situations, and we want to protect you as much as possible in this new political age. I'm seeing that Word Nerd is going to make flyers to hand out at the Women's March. Love that. Word Nerd, if you share them with us, we'd love to credit you and have people be able to download them on the site as well. Jenny says, I cannot find you on Instagram. Jenny, such a good point. Okay, so Eddie, could we put back up my name? And Sarah, could you type out the name? My Instagram is Shawna.Vercher. I used to keep Facebook and Instagram very personal and very private. We're blowing all of our boundaries today, folks. So it's Shawna, SHAWNA, Vercher, V as in Victor, ERCHER. The bad news is it's a little tough to spell. The good news is there's not too many of me, so it's really easy to find once you do. So that's Shawna, SHAWNA, and then Vercher is V as in Victor, ERCHER, or Vercher if you are Cajun or French. BlueSky is going to be Political Fixer, great for Carolyn. Also, we're going to be adding all of the links. If you go to politicalfixer.com, we'll make sure all of those links, and we'll add them, we'll cross-post them on Equal Rights Now. Sarah is posting a way to connect all the way. Yes, CSA 220, we are on YouTube. Political Fixer, that one's super easy. So Political Fixer, you just find us there, and not only will you see some of the filmed videos, that's one of the places that our podcast is going to be made available starting on Monday, as well as some of these lives are going to be uploaded as well. Now, I understand there's a lot of strong feelings about social platforms and where we should post and where we should not. What we're going to be doing, however, our personal choice is going to be to get the information as broad spread as we can and not worry about the platform on our end, but we respect that you might be on different platforms than us, so being able to connect with us in different ways is a high priority for us, so we're working on that. Kelly Scaria, yes, we're on YouTube. Political Fixer. There's a lot of work to be done. Also, I want to say hi to CJ Murphy in West Virginia, Equal Rights Now. Great to have you, CJ. We've had many of you join, hundreds and hundreds that we have already seen. We have surpassed 50,000 likes, hundreds and hundreds of comments, and we are just getting started. This has been an amazing Friday where we received some unexpected but joyful news. So I thank you for joining this family meeting. Carolyn M. Adams wants to make brochures for the bill. How do we share materials you make? Great question. If you reach out on the contact form or email us, Carolyn, forgive me, I don't know how you pronounce it, then we will make sure that you can share things and your artwork. Jenny asked, what was the news? If you're just joining us, President Biden expressed that in his executive opinion as Commander-in-Chief, that he believes that we have met the legal requirements for the Equal Rights Amendment to officially become the 28th Amendment of our United States Constitution. And being able to say that loud and on the air with all of you is giving me chills right now. And so the work is not done. What happens now is, while this is joyful, unexpected news that just builds on the work of so many others, he has directed the National Archivist, the person who's responsible for putting this officially in the Constitution, to do just that, to officially write it out, and it becomes the 28th Amendment. There are some legal questions because it took so long to get to this point about whether or not she's allowed to do exactly that. Does the archivist have the authority to put this in the Constitution or not? Likely, this is going to go to a legal fight, but we can influence that legal fight with awareness, public and media amplification, and yes, political pressure on congressional and state leaders. So we're going to be talking so much more about this, but imagine what we can do. And if you doubt that we can do this, I want to point you to some of the victories we're already seeing in changing the narratives of what the media is saying about certain issues. We're able to change headlines. Trust me, I know this in the work that I do. We're able to influence people that seem like nothing can get to them. There are so many of them that if we work together and we go through all of the channels of every human we know and ask them to join our voices, we can still reach them. And we can show people that, yes, equal rights now is a declaration. Enough waiting, enough punting, enough hemming and hawing and bickering and process and procedure and debates. Women deserve to be in our U.S. Constitution as equal citizens. We need to keep it that clean and that simple and that unapologetic. And I'm happy to say it with a smile, but I'm going to say it as many times as it takes until it becomes a reality. For me, for my daughter, for you and your children and your grandchildren and the children we have yet to meet. In this great nation of ours, it's time. And we just got to crack a daylight. And I don't know about you, but after everything we've been through lately, I am ready to run towards that light. But it's only a party if all of you are there with me. That is something that I for sure know. And so I am so excited that right now we have so many people from around the world that have committed to help. This is the start of the conversation. I am a catalyst of the conversation, not an all-knowing genius. So I welcome your voices, your suggestions, your creativity, your knowledge, your experience. I want to do whatever I can to hear you, to amplify you, and to incorporate as much as you are willing to share and give. On behalf of everyone that I see people saying, I can't believe we didn't have these rights already. I know, it's so much ground, so much conversation to be had. And I'm just really grateful after everything that happened that we're here together to have this information shareable. No matter what happens with these platforms, we're going to vow to stay connected with each other, that we still have the positive energy and wherewithal to make a difference. I'm going to ask you something. Not only am I going to ask you to stay tuned in to this conversation specifically, using the hashtag Equal Rights Now and going to the website equalrightsnow.us. And yes, we will share every social that we build for Equal Rights Now as well. We already had them reserved. We're rolling them out over the weekend, and then we'll also share all of mine. We will make ways for you to get connected to us and that we can connect you to you and you can connect to each other. That is a top priority for us. But what I would also ask is that you use this opportunity, this unexpected gift on a Friday prior to the inauguration, where President Biden is using every moment he has to give every bit of service he can to this country. Protect yourselves and your mental health over these coming days. Focus on the positive, focus on yourselves and your loved ones, focus on resting, whatever you choose to do. But do not allow for negativity, divisiveness, and hopelessness to creep in. This is such a beautiful, beautiful reminder of that important lesson, and I know that sometimes I needed it, especially right now. All right, we're going to go ahead and wrap up this live. We're going to take a break. Breathe just a bit. We're going to come back on to TikTok Live at 5 p.m. Eastern so I can join some of you in conversation. I want to bring as many of you into the lives as possible. So if you are not on TikTok, you can find me at Political Fixer. That's at Political Fixer. I cannot wait to introduce you to so many of my TikTok friends. They're amazing. And new friends that I'm about to meet. So if you can, hop over, meet, Stephanie. I'd love to see you on there. We're going to have Heidi. I know Erin's busy today, the Afro educator, but she'll be on another day. I'm hoping that we get Divine AF Girl to talk to us, right? So whoever you are, let's jump on all of this stuff. Hey, Mel, good to meet you. And let's continue this conversation on TikTok at Political Fixer. If you need to leave and plug back in later, don't worry. You can go to YouTube at Political Fixer. That's our handle at YouTube, or go to equalrightsnow.us. Wow, we are almost at 60,000 likes. We had thousands of people there. Okay, good times for all. I appreciate you. Thank you for coming to this impromptu gathering. There's a new TikTok on my Political Fixer channel that talks about this issue that you can easily share. Please plug in on other platforms. We don't know what's going to happen to that. If you're on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, TikTok, and all the others, let us know you're there. Reach into the comments. We'll make sure to connect with you. Let's grow together. Let's be safe, but let's remain determined. All right, this one's a good one. I'm very excited about this. What a surprise. What a surprise. All right, everybody. I will see you all soon. Have a great day.